In this video we're going to take a brief look at something new in ArcGIS 10 called data-driven pages. This is basically map book functionality, and it is something that's new with 10. In previous versions, persons had to sort of make the map book manually themselves by zooming into an area, printing a map, or exporting a map, and repeating that process over and over, so it's pretty time consuming. There were some add-ons that could be downloaded, but it took a little bit of customization to get them to work, or you could pay somebody to do it or buy products to do this map book functionality. So in ArcGIS 10, data-driven pages is the map book functionality. There's a lot of good help on data-driven pages. Basically, you can get an overview of how to create the data-driven pages and then export them. That's what we're going to walk through here. But if you search for data-driven pages and look through that subject matter, that basically covers everything we're going to do here in even more detail. So the first thing to do is to turn on the data-driven pages toolbar, which is what you see here. And the second thing to do is to go into data-driven page setup. Now there are a couple of assumptions about this setup. One is that we have something called an index layer. So let's enable the data-driven pages. And the index layer is basically some layer in your map that will be used as an index for the pages to print. So in this case, we're going to use the township layer. So each of these township boundaries will become a separate page in the map book. Now there are ways to automatically create that grid layer. You can see that if you wanted to have a denser map down here in town, smaller map pages, you'd have to do some editing and basically create smaller polygons down here. So there may be some data preparation before going this far. But just to demonstrate how this works, we'll use the township layer. And then for the name of the page, we could use one of the fields that's in the table. So maybe there's a name for this page. This particular name is just going to put in kind of a map grid number. So, and then we can sort the pages based on some field as well. All of this is explained in more detail in the help. So we'll go ahead and click OK there. And so this will end up being page 1 because it happens to be the very first one in that map sort that I specified. The second thing that we need to do is go into the layout view in ArcGIS. And in the layout view, we can choose various layouts that layout templates that are already created. I've just picked one called Portrait Classic, and it sort of creates some map elements that are pretty standard. Things like a north arrow, a scale bar, a legend. There's a page number at the bottom. You can put a title in here. Layouts is not something I'll cover in this video, but there are lots of options for working with these layout templates and creating them. That'd be kind of an entirely separate subject. But basically, if you get a layout the way you'd like, you're going to use that layout as the basis for this data-driven pages. So in the data-driven pages toolbar, we can basically cycle through these pages one at a time, and you can see it's showing sort of one township at a time, and it's going to cycle through those. So each of those would be a separate page in the map book. That also implies that we've set up our map the way we want, with the right colors and symbology, the right labels, the right display scales, etc. Now in order to get this output as something, we're going to go to the File, Export Map. We can export the map as a PDF, would be one of the most common ways to do this. And we want to make sure we go into the format, or the page rather, pages, and we want to export all pages as a single PDF file. On the Advanced tab, we have a couple of options. We can export map georeference information, and we can even export the feature attributes that go with these features. Selecting that option makes it possible to use Adobe Reader and actually select features from the map and see what they are and see their attributes, but it does greatly increase the size of the PDF, and it takes much longer to do. So when we save that and output it, that's going to output basically one page per feature in our index layer. And so that takes a little bit of time to do, but in the end we'll have a PDF that we could then print or distribute to someone, and they could see all of the data in our map and even get information about it depending on the options that we specified. So that's really a quick and dirty tour of the data-driven pages. The requirements to make it work are: 1, an index layer of some kind. There are some directions for how to create those index layers using some tools and toolbox if you don't already have an index layer. That could take some manipulation to make those the appropriate sizes based on how large you want the map pages to be, how much data you want them to show. The second thing that needs to be done is turn on the data-driven page toolbar and configure data-driven pages. The third thing would be to go to the layout view and select the proper layout and possibly change that layout, move some of the elements around, add your logo in, change the title or text, etc. And then to go into File Export and export that map as an appropriate format like PDF, after which it could then be printed